Alrighty guys, so welcome back to the third part of our little drawing session or workflow. So some of the things that I kind of mentioned that I wanted to go over in the next portion of this drawing is I want to still add a little bit more detail onto our main character, but also too I wanted to do a backdrop for him. So I was actually thinking about it, and I think it would be cool to have him in some kind of water. But before we do that, we have these spark effect layers, and I actually want to merge the two of those together. So there we go. So now those are merged. And what we're going to do now is let's make a new layer, and we're actually going to paint this behind him. So we're gonna do some water here. So I think that could kind of look cool. So let's go and get the clay roller, and let's get kind of a, there we go. We'll kind of start off with that. Let's see, that kind of looks like, yeah, that looks like that might work. I might end up making it a little transparent, change the opacity on it a little bit, but I just think it might kind of look cool with him being in some water. So we're just going to kind of put that behind him. And I might actually drop the opacity a little bit more. There we go. It's a little bit better, a little closer to what I want. So I'm just going to do this. Okay. Just like so. I think that's decent. So we'll do that, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new layer and make this a little bit darker, and they're going to kind of add some dark tones to the water. Just like so. I'm going to drop the opacity on that. And I'm actually going to get my smudge tool and just kind of smudge those two together, just to kind of blend them, just so it's not so harsh. You don't want it to look too rough or anything. Just blend that. There we go. And then we can merge those two together. So now those are just one layer. Now what we need to do though is kind of want it to stand out more like it's water. So we need to add some more watery effects to it. So actually for that, let's go to, I have this dry brush. So let's see, so it's gotta cut, yeah, that's gonna look good. So I'm gonna kind of take that and just kind of just go across the water, just like so. Just kind of like that. I'm gonna drop the opacity on that. Turn that down a little bit. That looks good. So we'll do that. And then also too, I really want the water to kind of have like a really creepy, murky kind of look. Now, one way that we're going to achieve that is we're going to have like some fog and mist coming up, but to kind of give the water a little bit more personality, we want to kind of put some weird stuff in it. So maybe we'll do, oops, let's go and get the clay roller again. Maybe we'll put like some weird, like kind of like stones or something, just kind of like, sorry, not stones. We'll put like some weird like grassy stuff kind of like floating in the water. And we can make this character as if he's on some kind of alien planet. I think that would actually be quite fitting. I think it'd be very fitting actually for this. Make this a little bit smaller. Just like so. I think that looks good. I'm actually going to get a lighter color of that green and just kind of go over this. It's just kind of giving me a little bit of something to work with to make this look a little more like it has a little more form to it. Just like so. Okay, perfect. And then I'll make a new layer, and we're gonna just add some kind of like little streaks of grass coming up. Just like so, just enough to get the idea, you know? And we're gonna do something too to kind of make this stand out a little bit more and make it look even better. So we're just getting the base of that grass created. Just like so. Okay, so now I'm going to merge those two together. So now those are all connected. And before I do this next little thing, we're going to come back over here into the curves and kind of play around with that a little bit. And see, I kind of like even though this is the grass is green, the grass is greener on the other side. But no, even though these are kind of green, adding a little bit of a red tint to it kind of helps it blend into the picture a little bit more, because it has like the red tones, and even this blue kind of looks good. So let's check it out. Okay, so see, so first we had that, which still looks nice, but changing around with the colors, that kind of just blends it more into the background and makes it a little bit more believable. So I just duplicated this layer, and what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make it pretty dark. So we're just going to go about right here, and then I'm going to change the opacity just a tad bit, just a little bit, and then we're going to come with the eraser, and we're actually going to make the eraser kind of thin, and then we're just going to kind of start erasing over some of those little lines of grass. And what this is doing is it's practically giving a little bit of shadow to that grass that we just added. So it looks like that light, the same light that we have hitting down on our main armored character here, it looks like it's that same light source is kind of hitting down here on this grass as well. I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, that looks good. See, what a difference, right? So we can take that, we can merge that together. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to duplicate this again. And I'm actually going to come in here in the basic, and we're going to rotate it and practically flip it upside down. And we're going to move it. Well, we're going to have to move parts of it. So we have to move that. And then, let's see, let's get the lasso so I can select this stuff. There we go. I'm going to move this further down a little bit. Just like so. And then I'm going to move all of this underneath that layer. I'm going to drop the opacity on it because it's practically kind of looking like a little bit of a reflection. I'm going to get the blur tool and just kind of blur it out just a little. Not the blur tool, sorry, the smudge tool. I'll just kind of smudge it just a little bit. so it looks more like a little bit of a reflection. Okay, we still need to add one for back over in here, but we'll leave it alone for right now. So what I'm going to do is create a new layer, and we need to kind of like make this stuff actually look like it's in the water. So one way we can do that is by, for one, we need to change your brush, and I'm actually going to go to a 6B pencil for this. I'm going to select white, and then we're going to make the size of the pencil that's probably maybe just a tad bit smaller. And I'm going to draw kind of like little circular shapes around the base of these. It's kind of just make it look like the water is kind of rippling out a little bit. So just adding just these little lines here, it really kind of gives more of the appearance of water. It really helps kind of sell the idea. And we can actually turn the opacity down on that just a little bit. There we go. So we got all of that. And we still want that grass to look a little bit more realistic. So what we'll do is I'm actually going to keep that 6B pencil, and we're going to select that color of the grass. And we're just going to have some more rough shoots of that grass just kind of sticking out. So see, like what we did earlier is we had all of that grass and it just kind of made like the stalk of the grass, and it made it look more thick, like a real clump of grass. And so now we're adding these lines. It helps it all look a little bit more believable. So we'll just kind of keep adding those in right there. Now something else that we'll probably do too is we'll make a layer and have some of that grass coming in front of him, so it actually looks like he's in the drawing and not just everything is like behind him. So we want to make sure that we do that. So we'll do that in just a second. I just want to kind of get these up to a certain level. That way it looks more like this grass is actually just kind of popping out of the water. And as you're doing this, you can just kind of have fun just, you know, kind of creating the grass in different strokes, and it doesn't all have to go in the same pattern. So like, you see how I just made that one kind of look a little funky? You can kind of do the same thing. You can have some of them come extending way out over here, almost like they're saying hey to these ones over here. It's kind of like, hey, what's up? And, you know, I'm just chilling. So yeah, so that looks better, but we're still not done, because you see how that looks? It looks a lot better. I'm actually going to duplicate that. So when I duplicated that again, it made it just more thick. It made these really long strangly pieces, it made them stand out even more. So now we can merge all of that together, and then we'll make a new layer. And then what we're going to do is actually make this a little bit brighter, because remember, we still have that light coming in from the top. Oops, let me make this smaller. We have that light coming in from the top, and so we still want it to reflect on the grass. And so by having some lighter strokes of that grass, it truly does make it look like that light is really hitting on the little strands of grass here. So you see, it's pretty easy to do this. It doesn't take any crazy thing to, you know, create little grass clumps like this, but it's very effective, which is pretty cool. So that looks so much better. Just by knowing like the right different colors to add together can really do wonders for your artwork. There we go. That looks pretty good. And then we'll do just a few over here. This little guy over here. We don't want this one to feel like he's been forgotten. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so now that we have that, I want to show you a cool trick, okay? So what we're going to do is, remember I said I want some grass here in the front of him. So what we can actually do is duplicate this entire layer, okay? And that actually looks pretty good with all of it. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and hold this. I'm going to drag this all the way to the front of the drawing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this. I'm going to take just this piece right here, and I'm going to expand it about right there, because I think that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. So we're going to do that. And then something that can kind of look pretty cool is to take it and add a filter to it and kind of blur it out a little bit. Just a little bit, because what it will do is it kind of makes it look like, again, same thing how we did with the flames, it makes it look like that's out of focus, like the grass is closer to our view. And if we make it a little bit darker, it will stand out a little bit better. Look at that. Isn't that cool? So let's see. So how does it look without that? Yeah, that definitely fits. That definitely fits. But oh yeah, that's our that's our OG layer right there. I still think the sparks will. Well, let's not worry about that right now. Okay, so what I want to do is, I'm not too worried about this water line all the way back here, even though it's not even, because it's not going all the way across, and it doesn't really need to be. And the reason for that is because we're gonna add some like mist and stuff in the background to make it look a little bit more, like there's maybe some steam or something coming off of the water, which I think would actually be really cool. But before we do that, I think it would be good to maybe have like some land, like you can kind of tell there's like some land mass in the background, and we can do that. We're gonna go back to the clay roller, and we're just gonna, oh, this needs to come all the way back. There we go. We're just gonna do this, and this will kind of just look like the shore in the background. And I'm not really, this is gonna be a very faded out layer, so we're not gonna see like a ton of this or anything. So we're just gonna fill that in just like so. And something else would be kind of cool too is if we have like, say they are on a different kind of planet or something, so we can have like some really cool, like rocks in the background that are kind of just like, maybe like they're floating or something. So we just create some stuff like so. We have one up here. Just make this one kind of look like it's connected to the ground and it's just going up. And this one, just like so. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, well here actually before I do that, I want to give a little bit of that light, even though these aren't really going to be seen very well. I still want to give a little bit of that light that we had from the top. I want to put it at the top of these rocks just a little bit, just so they look like they have some form, even though they're going to be far off in the background. I still want them to stand out just a little bit. Just enough to kind of highlight them to where you're like, oh, okay, so it's not just a flat surface back there pretending to look like it's something. And see, I'm doing this kind of messy with these pieces because what that's doing is it's kind of making it look like there's form and different shadows that are falling on the rock, so it's not all in just like one big clump of like this lighter brown. And actually, more than likely, I'm gonna change the color on this. So see, look at that. So that, look how fast we did that. That was pretty cool. So there we go. So we have that, and I'm actually gonna go ahead and this time we're just gonna go to color. We have hue, and then I'm just gonna pull this around and just kind of look and see what looks good. And I'm kind of thinking maybe we'll leave it at the brown, but maybe we'll turn the saturation down a little bit just so they look a little bit more gray. That looks good. And then we can come over here to the curves and then maybe add a little bit of a blue tone to them, just a little bit like so. Maybe just a tad bit of that red and then a little bit of green. There we go. Yeah, that looks better. They look way better. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually turn the opacity down on them a little bit. Just like so. That looks pretty good. And then what else I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate another layer of these, but I'm going to make these ones a little bit smaller. And let's see, let's do, I kind of was thinking about putting some more in the background back here. And I think, actually, no, we're not going to do it like that. But we can actually, here, let's just delete this one. So what I'll do is I'm going to make a new layer, and we're going to get this color right here. And then just off in the distance, here, we'll just do this by hand. So we'll just sketch out some other ones that are kind of further off in the background. So we'll just do like a little one right back here. And there's one here kind of floating or so. And here. Just like so. And then these ones will make them faded even more. So that way they look like they're really far off in the distance. There, that looks a little bit better. Make them a little bit more dark. Makes them look a little bit more mysterious and kind of spooky. Okay, so I like the way that looks. Now it's time to add some fog. That's actually going to kind of like block some of this stuff up. So what we're going to do is kind of have like a little creepy mist coming off of the water, and maybe we'll do like a kind of a, let's do a color kind of like this. Let's just see. I'm still going to stick to the clay roller for now. And what we'll do, since this is mist, we want to have this kind of all loose like, kind of really creepy looking. Just kind of popping up over here in the back. I really like the clay roller brush because it has like this, it just has this way that it lets the flow of the brush just kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of effortlessly the way you kind of just maneuver it around. It just kind of does what you want it to do. So that looks pretty good. And we're going to change the opacity on it just a little bit. And we're going to get the blur tool and kind of, oops. There we go. Get the blur tool and just kind of like smudge certain spots of it just to make it a little more smooth. And see how that looks? That looks pretty cool. Just kind of, just like so. You don't want really like any sharp edges of this stuff left behind because it will just kind of look, it'll just look like you kind of forgot and made a mistake or so. Oops. Actually, let's just go back a couple times. There we go. So yeah, I think that looks pretty cool, but we can also try changing the color on it just a little bit and see what would it look like. I always encourage this. I always feel like it's a good idea just to kind of just play around with different colors. There's no harm in it. So I do like the green, more of a green tint. I kind of like that. Kind of wondering if the brightness, no, I think that's good. I think we'll leave it like that. Unless, kind of adding that red tint to it. I think that kind of helps a little bit too. Let's see, if I make it brighter, I'd probably need to change the opacity on it a little bit and make it just so it doesn't look as intense. So we could do it like that, but I kind of like the little red tint that we had in there. I think that looks good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually duplicate this again, and we're going to bring it all the way to the front of the drawing, and we're going to make it, just going to expand it. We're just going to put just a little bit right here in front of him, because we're trying to make sure that he looks like he's like he's in the environment. Like we don't want it to look like everything's just behind him. So we're going to go to filters. I'm actually going to blur this out a little bit. It doesn't look as sharp. So kind of give it a little bit more dimension. And maybe even just add a little bit more red to this front layer, just so it kind of separates from the back a little bit. We can try that, or we can try with a little bit more. Let's try some other colors. So that green kind of looks cool. Might be a little bit too much. So that kind of looks good. So see, like we have the blue, a little bit more of a blue tone. And that kind of makes it look a little bit cooler, so it makes it look not as warm. So you want to be careful with your colors. If especially like this is kind of like a overcast, kind of gloomy area, and if you have too many warm colors, it's going to make it look, it's just going to make the drawing look more like it's hot. And this is supposed to be a very like kind of cold environment. So yeah, so also too, let's save. Okay, so what I believe we need to do now is we need to add a little bit of texture to the backdrop, because right now the sky is practically just like one color. So maybe we have that darker color in the background, but I kind of want to change that up a little bit. So we need some clouds. So I'm actually, okay, we'll just leave that, but yeah, we need some darker cloud coverage or something just to make this look a little bit more intense. So let's go with a dark color. Let's go more towards red. Let's make sure our brush size is pretty big. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to blur this. I'll probably drop the opacity on that just a little bit. So that adds a little bit more of dimension into the sky, so it doesn't look so flat. You see what I mean? So let's actually merge those two together, and we can come over here and we can kind of just, again, kind of push this around and just kind of see what looks better. Oops, actually, hold on. I realize that I did not want to merge this with that. So we were on the wrong layer. Okay, there we go. Kind of changing that. So you can see that in the back of the ground, the sky is just like, it's getting a little bit darker, especially right in this area. Okay, a little bit of green to the sky. The red also kind of looks good too, so a little bit more red in the sky. So let's do that, and then come over here to the hue, and we can just change the color like this as well. I kind of like that. I feel like that kind of blends together pretty well. But I still would like to have certain parts in the sky look like they have them a little bit more light to them. So what we'll do is, we can make this a tad bit smaller, but we'll just kind of do like some scattered areas kind of up here. Just like so. And then we'll come over to filters, blur. I'm gonna blur this out a little bit. It's kind of crazy how much stuff can really go into just the sky of just trying to make it look a little more. Oops, and I merged those layers again. I didn't mean to do that. Okay, there we go. Actually, I want to see something real quick. Let's do. There we go. I kind of made that a little bit darker. I think that's good. Just like that. So see, so the sky, that's looking pretty good, and we can go ahead and merge all of this together actually. I think that looks good. Okay, so the other thing too is, I think it would look pretty cool is if we have, if this scene, if it's raining, I think that could really add some pretty cool effect. Another thing that would be really cool too is the background of these rocks back here. So what if it's like we had it to where those were actually they were kind of glowing a little bit, or there's some light around them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom in and sample from one of these little sparks. And what I'll do is we'll come over with, we'll get the pencil. We can actually use the pencil. This is actually a good time to use the pencil. So we'll come back here, and actually I should make this a little bit bigger. Let's see. Yeah, I think that will work. And just kind of add some, make it look like there's some light being casted up onto the bottom of these. Oops, and I went out. There we go. Make it look like there's some light being cast onto the bottom of these ginormous rocks. So you see what I mean? So I think that looks pretty cool. So maybe they're glowing from like here or something, you know? So even though stuff is far in the background, you can still, you know, give a good look of detail, but it's not like you have to spend a ton of time doing it. You can just kind of give the appearance of something, and you know, people see something and your mind will really kind of do the rest of the work of like, oh, okay, I get what that is. That's cool. So this one's off in the background, just like so. I think that looks pretty good. And maybe turn the opacity down just a little bit. That looks pretty cool. What a big difference all this has made. Okay, so we've got all this nice kind of foggy, smoky look going on. And what else we can do to add a little bit more flair to it is I was talking about adding some rain. And now I don't want to merge any of the smoke or the grass or this stuff. I don't want to merge any of that together. This, however, this is one of the layers that we had for our water. And our water is, where's our water? I think that is our water layer. Yeah. So let's actually, we won't worry about that. We'll just leave that alone for right now. And on our main character, before we start doing the rain, I want to add a little bit more stuff onto him. And so something that I was kind of thinking that we could do is, for one, we talked about earlier in the video that we kind of wanted all of this stuff here on him, like this centerpiece, wanted to look like it was glowing more. So we can do that by getting our sprayers. We can get a soft airbrush and you can just kind of draw. Actually, you know, here's a better trick to do it. Instead, you have more control. We'll just draw a little circle like this. And then we'll come over here to filters, blur, just like so. And then we can move that around and center that just a little bit more, just like so. Maybe I'll duplicate it, make it a little bit stronger. I think that looks pretty good. I'm gonna turn down just a tad bit. Yeah, that looks good. So we'll merge that with him. And then also too, I think it'd be kind of cool to add, here, I'll show you. So let's do this. So we're gonna kind of make it look like there's lens flares on him, and that needs to come down further. Okay, so check this out. So we'll come over here to filters, scroll down, and then we're gonna get this one right here. So we'll move it about right there. I'm gonna grab this, push it back over a little bit, drop the opacity on it just a tad bit, merge that together. Okay, so I'm thinking that looks pretty good. He looks pretty solid. I wouldn't want to mess with this guy. But also too, let's make it kind of look like he's splashing around in the water just a little bit. So let's do a layer. Let's get white and perfect water splatter. So let's get that and just kind of do this right here. And this actually needs to come in front of him because we want it to look like the water is actually splashing. We can make this a little bit smaller so we can have, the smaller you make it, you can make it a little bit more intense in certain areas. So you're like, oh, okay, so the water's like really splashing right there. Perfect. And then we can actually duplicate that and make it a little bit stronger. Turn it down just a little bit. Yeah, just like so. That looks pretty good. It's looking pretty good, my friends. Actually, turn that up a little bit. There we go. Okay, so now, pretty much the final part, I would suggest that let's add let's add some rain coming down on this guy. So we're going to come all the way to the top. And well, actually, before we add the rain, let's just go ahead and try this, because we have that splatter brush and the rain is going to be hitting on him, and you want it to look like the rain is kind of like bouncing off. So we can just use that same brush and just kind of go over the top of all the areas where the water should be hitting on him. This will be the first kind of layer of doing that. So we'll just do it here, here, here. All of these little areas. There's millions of little rain droplets falling and hitting our soldier, our shiny space knight. And put a few right in here too. The water would be kind of bouncing on him a little bit. And we still have that logo in there. I might actually kind of leave it. It's kind of wore on me a little bit. Okay, so you kind of want to do this part before you start adding the raindrops falling. That's the easy part. It's always just making it look like you want it to look like it's actually hitting on him enough. So I would suggest do this part first and then add the little water droplets. Okay, so we have that. Let's go ahead and save too. And the other thing that we can do is we'll make a new layer. Now check this out. This is going to be kind of cool. So let's get this inker. Check the size of it. There we go. It's pretty decent. Now what we'll do is we'll come in close, and we're going to make it look like little water droplets are kind of running down the armor. So when you're doing this too, you kind of want to draw the water droplets running in the direction and the form of the armor. So you wouldn't want to just have like a line going like that, because that would kind of look silly. So you would kind of want the water to run down. You have to try to envision that this is a rounded surface kind of. Same thing with his helmet too. So you wouldn't want it just like that, right? So you would want it to come down and bend and then drip down right here, and then maybe even, since there's a space right there, you put a few little drops to make it look like, oh, the water's falling in front of him. And you can kind of continue it right there. So same, a few drips. Same on these. A little water could be dripping on here. You can put like a little wiggle in some of it too, so it doesn't look all straight and fancy. Just like so. Same thing over on this side. So we're gonna have the water dripping, running down, running down, running down. Running down. Running down, running down. And we want it in here. Oops, it's way too strong. So I'm being very gentle as I'm pushing on this, because I don't want to push too hard and have it just look all funky and weird. There we go. Okay, so now that we have that, something I want to do is I kind of want to make some of these spots a little bit stronger for like where the water is hitting. So like these little splashes, the raindrops hitting on him, we're just really going to just make a bunch all nice and strong. This way it will look like the water's like really like tick, 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 tick. You know, you can almost hear it. You can almost hear the sound of the water hitting on the metal. And see that? What a big difference that made. We're going to do the same thing here, unless we want it to look like the water's hitting here on his gun as well. This guy looks like he's been through a lot for one day. Go right over here, get some of that. Perfect. Sometimes you just throw a little bit of those splatters just kind of like far out, just looks like little rogue water droplets are just flying all over the place. It really helps to just kind of sell the idea. Just like so, and all like this right here. All on his gun. Okay, perfect. So that looks pretty good, but we still are not done because we have to put some down here. Little areas. Just like so. Doesn't have to be quite as much because the majority of it you would see like on these edges. That's where the majority of that stuff would be. So you don't have to worry so much about like these areas and all of that right there. Okay, but with that being said, what we can do is going to be kind of cool if you're ready for it. Okay, so first off, let's merge all of that together. It's all the rain. Look at that. What a difference that made. That looks so cool. Okay, so we're going to make a new layer. And what I want to do is, because the water is dripping, I want to have like some wet spots back here. Like the water's running off of him. Because if it's raining this much, clearly the water should be like dripping like crazy off of this dude. I feel like those are too many over there. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, and then the same thing over here. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Water is dripping. I have a little bit of that water dripping off of the wires too. Don't want to forget those down there. That looks pretty good. He looks pretty intense. I put a little bit more water right down in there. There we go. That looks nice. So let's merge all of that together. So now we have one solid rain layer. Look at that. That looks pretty cool. Okay. So now that we've got that, now it's time to actually add in the rain. So we made a whole new layer. All I'm going to do is just make some strokes. Just kind of going up. I'm just going to do a few, and then we're going to do a little trick. All we're going to do is just copy the same layer. Same layer, and we're going to duplicate it. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm just going to move it. Actually, here, let's flip it. Do that, and then I'm going to merge both of those layers together. Oops, that was the wrong one. Here we go, from the top down. There we go. So we have that, and I'm going to duplicate it again, and I'm going to flip it and move it around a little bit. I'm going to rotate it. And I'm going to lower the opacity on some of them, merge those together, drop the opacity on those. Probably need to do it again. I did this a couple of times just to get it so it looks right. Kind of like that one right here going down the middle of his face, kind of like that look. That looks pretty cool. Okay, so let's merge all of that together. I think that's looking pretty cool. Pretty cool. Let's see, also too, in the background, we want to add a few little water splats here in the water itself, because you can't have all that rain coming down and then no little splats here in the actual pond and water that he's in. And these can actually go in the back, so they can kind of go behind all of that other stuff. So just little water splatlets all off in the background. Perfect. We'll change the opacity just a little bit. And just like so. I think that looks pretty good, my friends. He looks pretty intense. I like it. So, what you can do now is you can always, let's save. So you can always export this out. You can bring it back in as a full picture, and then if you want, you can kind of change like the levels on it and make it, just kind of play around with the colors more. If you don't want to do everything like individual with all of these layers over here. And you can always merge these layers together more if you want to. But a lot of times I like to leave my layers broken up so that I can like do other stuff with them. Because sometimes I'll put it into like another, like my 3D program, and just kind of like make it look like the camera is like kind of like moving through the artwork. So sometimes I won't merge all of my layers together. But I believe this is a very, very nice little solid piece. And I want to thank you all so much for sitting here and drawing this with me all the way through. This was a lot of fun. There's one more thing though, before I let you go, is I kind of want to fade out the top of these little cliffs that we have here, or these little mountains. or not mountains, but little rocks that we have floating. So watch this, you'll see what I mean. So we'll kind of do this, right? Kind of do this, kind of do that, and then a little bit more over here, here, and here. And so what we did by just doing that is we will turn filter on to blur. Then we'll drop the opacity on those just a little bit, just to make it look like those are kind of like closer to in the top of the mist right there. So you see that? So we got that nice kind of blend right there. So you can see them all clear right there, and that just kind of hides them, makes the background look a little bit more mysterious. So yeah, so pretty cool. I'm pretty satisfied with it. So if I do anything more with this, I'll probably just adjust the levels on it. So I'll probably throw that part in at the end of the video, just so you can kind of see, and then that will give us our final look. But as of right now, this is the final that we're gonna have with the actual character, and we've got a pretty good, decent environment for him to be standing in. So it's pretty cool. Doesn't look like he's just in front of everything. It looks like he's actually there, solid, locked down into the picture, which is very, very cool, very exciting. And there's a lot of stuff that you can tell that's going on in this. You can tell your own story practically. The picture also kind of seems like it screams maybe lightning or something. That could kind of look cool. Let's just see real quick. Let's go and get like a glow. Let's see, would this be good? Oops, I gotta make it bigger to actually tell. This would be good for lightning. Maybe the combustion one. This brush is usually kind of good for that kind of stuff, but I don't know, we'll see. So let's try putting like a streak of lightning or something in the background. I mean, that kind of looks cool. I'm not mad at it. It probably needs to go a little bit further off into the background though. And then maybe drop the opacity on it just a little bit. I think that looks pretty cool. Yeah, I like it. Kind of like the lightning. Kind of gives it a different edge. And okay, I promise to you, this will be the last thing. Check this out. So if we go back to our brushes, we get this. And then here at the top, since that lightning's flashing, we can kind of put, oops. Let's see if we can make those a little bit bigger. It needs to be white too. So we can kind of do something cool like this and make it look like those rocks are actually picking up that flash of light. They're kind of off in the distance. Just like so. It just adds a little bit more dimension to the drawing. And we'll turn these down though, because we don't want these like super bright. And just kind of off in the distance. Just enough to know that it's there. Little flashes. Perfect. Alright guys, I believe that is it. So thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope this was beneficial to you. I hope it helped you. And like I said, I'll add in that little part at the end where I'm just adding a little bit more color to this drawing, but we'll add that in at the end. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. So I hope this was fun for you guys. It was definitely fun for me. And thank you guys so much for supporting my channel with your purchase of this little series right here. And hope you guys will be willing to check out more. So with that being said, take care, and you can always email me at howtodrawlikejohn@gmail.com. All right. Take care, guys. Bye. All right, guys. So we have the final image, and I just exported it and then re-imported it. So on this layer right here, this is the final image. And if I were to hide it, you won't see a difference because it's the exact same as all of these layers. But with it all being one image now, what I can do is I can come over here to our curve and I can kind of mess around with the colors in it just a little bit, just to kind of add like that final polished look that we can kind of get. Let's see if we add a little bit of green. Kind of like that. I kind of like that look. I think that looks kind of cool. So now see, if I were to hide it, you'll see like a slight change in the color. But I think, oops, I think that looks pretty cool with the green, and maybe even turn it down just a little bit, just so we still have like, yeah, it looks pretty cool. And then I'll come over here to our color, and we can mess around with the exposure. And a lot of this is just stuff you guys can just kind of mess around with on your own until it's just, you know, if it's appealing to your eye, the way it looks, or you change things up or whatever, like, you're more than welcome to. We can mess with the temperature. So see, that makes it look more like it's warm, like more like a tropical kind of picture. This, with all of that blue, really makes it look a lot more cold. So we want it somewhere maybe about right there. And then the hue, I don't think we're really going to mess with that too much because that's going to change too much of the drawing. But still, it kind of gives you some cool ideas of different variations of the same drawing, but it just kind of adds a little bit more. And I do kind of like that look a little bit. I kind of like the way that looks. So let's see. Let's go. It's just making it looks a little bit stronger, a little bit more intense. I kind of like that. So there's how it was without. There we go. We just got a little bit more green tones mixed in there. So yeah, which is kind of cool. You can always come into your filters. You can always mess around with stuff, add things if you want to. Sometimes you can put like a textured canvas on it. So if I zoom in, you can actually see it looks a little bit more textured, but I'm actually going to leave it off because I kind of like the smooth, really digital look. It kind of just looks like concept art. So yeah, that is going to wrap up this entire series. And thank you guys so much for spending the time, and I really do appreciate it. So hope you guys enjoyed this one. And with that, I think we're gonna call it quits. So guys, take it easy.